You seem hungry. Good thing your table is ready with Faturday Omaha.
Faturday Omaha.
Eat this. Hey, everybody. This is Dave with Faturday, and we are sitting in studio with Talia McGill and Alisha Waugh of No More Empty Pots. How are you both doing this evening?
Doing good.
Fantastic. All right. So, Talia, you and I had got together to talk about No More Empty Pots in general, kind of how things started, all the different services and helpful things that you provide. I think we kind of only scratched the surface, though. I think there's a lot more probably that we didn't even get a chance to touch on. And then we also talked about the recent opening of Cups Cafe.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I was talking to Alisha a little bit before here, and rumor has it that Rain's opening has been fantastic and Cups is going very well.
Yes, 100% is everything we could have hoped for and then some. So if you haven't got there yet, I'm going to drop the drink on the menu that I think is our best, which is called the Velvet Rain.
Oh, okay.
Named after the one and only, and it is delish. Come get some.
What is in the Velvet Rain?
Okay, so here's how I would explain it to people without saying what's in it. Because for me, if I knew what was in it, I probably wouldn't order it.
Okay.
But if you think of like a velvet cake, like a red velvet cake in a cup.
Okay.
That's what it is.
What?
That is not what the ingredients are,
okay.
But that's what it tastes like.
But that's what it is.
Great velvety mouthfeel and red velvet cake flavor.
Okay.
I don't know how it happened.
There's some magic in there.
But there's some magic in there.
All right, so now that we've got drinks out of the way and we know what the preference is, and I still need to go down there and try some. So I haven't been at Cups since its former installation in Little Italy. So now up on North 30th in the No More Empty Pots building. So just so people know where we're talking about, what's the address of No More Empty Pots again?
Yes, so we are located at 8501 North 30th Street. It is really at the intersection of 30th and Willett. So if you're familiar with the bank that's there or the Hy-Vee Fresh Mart, we're on the opposite corner.
Awesome. And I think we said last time around, too, that Zesto's is real close there. So if you're familiar with that as well. So awesome.
Right across from Ramona's, too.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. They did quite a deal for his like National Taco Day or something like that. And they were like selling 50-cent tacos. And like, I don't know, it was crazy. They were slinging a lot of tacos out of there. But we're not talking tacos today. This conversation was kind of a greedy ask for me. Alisha, I told you that I love meeting people and I love learning. And when I had first started talking with No More Empty Pots about getting this crew on the show, there's so much to talk about because of everything that you guys do. But I was so curious about the kitchen space. I hear No More Empty Pots from folks like Kate from Carter Rye, from food trucks and things like that, because in Omaha, you need to have a commercial kitchen space for your food truck. Or at least that's what I understand. But I'm not going to tell the story there because you know it way better than I do. So what type of commercial kitchen space does No More Empty Pots provide? And like, who uses the space?
Sure. So we are a Commissary kitchen. We have 3 actual commercial kitchens located inside the food hub alone. The greenhouse also has a commercial kitchen that's there at the top of the greenhouse.
Okay.
The spaces that we have, it's available for any up-and-coming entrepreneur, even established entrepreneur. The process is pretty quick and easy, but it does give them that availability to operate out of that space and be permitted through the health department, and everything is regulated. So if it comes out of our kitchen, we're safe to say that it's insured, it's certified, and it's permitted through the Department of Health.
So a necessary base of operations. And how do food providers typically meet up with you or come to you, and like how does that connection happen, and how does a person get started if they're thinking about doing something?
Yeah, so on our website we have them tour the kitchen, but then they usually set up an in-person tour with me. Sometimes it's just word of mouth and they just kind of come up off the street. We actually installed a doorbell because we couldn't notice when everybody was trying to come
literally off the street, like
literally
ding dong,
off the
hello.
street, stopping by, hey, what's this space, or hey, I've heard of No More Empty Pots, how do I get in contact? So we just do impromptu tours and show everyone the space. And I have not had not one single person that's toured with me not be in shock and awe of how much space is there and what's all available, because it was not known. So they can always go to our website, click on that virtual tour, or click on the actual programming for the kitchen rentals, and it has them fill out an interest form that then comes to me, and I reach out to any entrepreneur that's inquisitive of the space.
So I haven't been to this space, and I'm totally going to need to check this out. But tell me a little bit about it from your perspective. If you had to take me on a virtual audio tour, like how big is it, and what's in there?
It's huge. So I will say that most of our entrepreneurs operate out of the basement level of the food hub, and that's where the two most popular commercial kitchens that our entrepreneurs use. You walk in, and it has a ramp, and it's long hallways. But as soon as you walk in, there's two commercial kitchens. You can walk in one that's fully equipped with burner stoves, a kettle. That one's more popular for our bakeries, our baker entrepreneurs, because it has mixers, like industrial-sized mixers. I'm talking you can make 40 gallons worth of cookie dough in 5 minutes.
That sounds like my type of cookie.
They are linked. The kitchens are linked together through a dish pit. The dish pit area is where we let them, clean all of their supplies. Food trucks, that's really popular for them. So at the end of their shift, you can have a space to go in and use a 3-sink basin and make sure all of their equipment is cleaned. And then it goes into that other commercial kitchen space that's larger and has flat top, salamander, grill, the works. Wow. Pizza ovens that are stacked. You would just be shocked at how much you can do in those kitchen spaces. Prep tables, and we equip them with all the tools needed. They can use our pots, pans, utensils. We have ninjas, microwaves, that kind of thing. Anything that's specific to their business or food-wise they bring. But other than that, they're usually set up to go in there and just start rocking and rolling.
How many people are in there typically at a time, or because I'm assuming you book out the rental time in advance or something along those lines?
Right.
Like, how many people do you usually have in there?
Yeah, we have an electronic booking system, and we haven't had any issue with anybody conflicting with times. Anytime someone has wanted to book that time and space, it's been pretty much available. I will say the entrepreneurs that we currently have, we're up to 33 right now of active entrepreneurs, and everyone just kind of seems to find their flow of when they're going to be coming into the kitchen space. So like food trucks, we know they might come in more heavily on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Our bakers come in really early in the mornings. So far we just have been able to kind of coexist and flow, just kind of like the dream that it's supposed to have as a commercial kitchen space that's shared with entrepreneurs.
How did that space get started? No More Empty Pots provides so many services to the community, and Talia, we had talked about ongoing education, community education, the CSA, all these things. Did the commercial kitchen space start as kind of a founding thing for No More Empty Pots, or was it part of as No More Empty Pots grew? Like, how did it come about?
It was always a part of the original vision. So early on in 2010, when the founders got together, they did like a food summit to try to figure out what were the actual needs of the community. And of those needs, beyond food access, one of them was access to commercial kitchen spaces, because we knew we had a lot of people in the community who could cook and probably even cook for a living. However, to just jump straight into getting a brick and mortar, especially when, you're already working 2 to 3 jobs, you don't have that credit available or that capital available to do that. So a lot of people just needed to get started. And so the concept was that we needed more commercial kitchen spaces in Omaha, and our building was constructed to do just that. So you had mentioned that we have 3. We technically have 4 on our rooftop. It is a certified commercial kitchen that can be served out of. While it doesn't have the heating elements, it does have the refrigeration elements. And so with all of these spaces, as we began to get people into there, we learned that not only did they need a physical space to start their businesses, but they needed some business development support as well. And so that's where our desire to do education kind of molded with that program. And it really was the first thing happening in our food hub in 2017 when we finished the first floor.
What makes it a certified commercial kitchen versus, say, my kitchen at home?
So the Douglas County Health Department has certain requirements. So one of them is the 3-sink basin. You have to be able to fully wash and sanitize all utensils and equipment used. So we supply that in pretty much multiple spaces in our kitchen space. We have stainless steel prep tables. We have commercial size ovens that make things a little bit easier versus cooking something out of your kitchen when you're cooking for masses. So most of our entrepreneurs are caterers, or they're prepping for their food truck. So the quantity of and mass amounts of things that they're doing wouldn't be conducive to do in their homes. And with the Douglas County health department coming out, they double check that we have our fluids, chemicals, all of that is up to code. They make sure that we are aware of like the foodborne illnesses, and our safety for Serve Safe is all certified and up to date.
So when somebody that is thinking about getting into the business of making food for others comes to you, I'm guessing that there's a mix of some folks that know all the Serve Safe stuff. And, I know I need to keep my food 6 inches off of the floor and my stuff on the counter 4 inches off of the counter and all these other things like this. But I'm assuming you probably also have some folks that are like, man, I make some really good gyros or pizza or whatever, but I don't know anything about this. So do you help the folks that are just have a dream, like give them that educational piece too of, okay, that's good that you want to cook this. Now here's all the other stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah, 100%. So if I already have someone in the kitchen space that kind of needs some of that knowledge or training, then that's something that I can offer them with one-on-one times. I give my calendar out to all of my entrepreneurs. They can always book a time with me to set, just even if it's just going through some of the new equipment that we have and learning how the ins and outs of that work. I've even had volunteer days where we sit there and we learn how to break all the equipment down and clean it at the level that it's supposed to be cleaned in a commercial kitchen. We also have our Kaufman Fast Track training program that's launching February 4th, I believe. Yep. And that is a 16-week cohort that takes their visions and turns it into an entire business plan. So they go through from the ideate phase all the way through the legal phase, the marketing. And by the time that they're done with that and they graduate that cohort program, those are the renters that will have priority over the kitchen space. So it will create like a pipeline. They'll have their business plan in place. They'll have their menu in place. They'll have all of these things that kind of make it easier for them to start that business. They've already had that background and that training. Now they just needed an equitable space for them to operate and try it out before they get that brick and mortar.
Maybe this is included in the educational piece too, because, thinking about not only the rules and regulations and things like that, but you just mentioned that business plan. I'm sure there's a ton of people that have never written a business plan that right. need that guidance and, help setting those goals and things like that as well. Do you guys also do things like food costing, like for menus and things like that for people, and then scaling things so it works at volume?
So that is something that's a part of that 16-week program, but we are also going to be offering workshops and just drop-in classes. Some people might already be further along in their entrepreneur journey, so they don't need every bit of detail and information that's in that 16-week program through Kaufman, but maybe they would benefit from learning the COGS side of the business or the marketing side of the business. So if we have guest speakers, specialized in that area, we'll have that open up for the community to come in and drop in on those classes and gain that knowledge too.
Talia, you had mentioned like there's that upskilling component of no more empty pots. If somebody's, really good at one thing, but maybe they need better knife skills or they need better business skills or they need whatever, you can kind of fit the no more empty pots help to where they need that help. Like you were mentioning, they might need that specific thing where they know a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's kind of cool that you can tailor the experience to the way that they need it. So it's very cool. Well, okay. So before we had started talking this evening, Alisha, we had kind of touched on a little bit. You had mentioned like cottage law and, we have health codes and things like that. So what are the types of food entrepreneurs or categories that you might help? Because a cottage baker or somebody is going to work out of their house, and if I recall from the cottage law, like you can't prepare, say, meat products in your house, but you can do baked goods or things like that. So right. What are kind of the categories of entrepreneurs that you help?
So the way that they break it down by the health department is basically their permitting for the year. So if you have a food truck, that's its own separate permit and has its own regulations. Caterer seems to be our most popular and most like all-inclusive if they are operating a business that has anything that's not just temperature-controlled foods. So temperature-controlled food would be like your meat, your dairy, those things that cannot be performed or operated out of a home under cottage law. Cottage law strictly just baked goods, and that's direct to consumer. So as a business owner, you would make those goods at your home, and you can only sell them at like markets or directly to somebody. You wouldn't be able to offer that wholesale and like get in places like Hy-Vee or even like our Cups Cafe where we're going to be featuring our entrepreneurs. So there's different permitting laws just depending on who you're selling to, not only what you're selling.
That sounds very, very complex. So, Alisha, are you the one that helps navigate the maze of laws and paperwork and things like that?
Kind of. It would be me and my partner, Michaela. She's on the entrepreneur team. We kind of blend our two roles together and kind of answer those questions, because that is something that would be super beneficial for entrepreneurs to know from the jump before they, start getting all of their permitting or start buying things for their business. They would want to know that just in the ideate phase. Okay, what is my business? What type of permit do I need? Do I want to go this route, or do I want to change and scale differently now that I know what I know about these certain kind of permits? And then also for me, getting them into the kitchen, I need to make sure that they're aware of what kind of permit that they'll be going through their inspection with the health department for under No More Empty Pots as their commissary. And if we don't know, the Department of Health has a great relationship with us. It's not like a scary thing. I mean, we just passed our building inspection a couple of weeks ago with an excellent status. So that's really cool, because all of our entrepreneurs that operate under our kitchen, they have that same status as us. So
wow.
Good thing there that we have that status. And so it's just a great relationship. If I have a question and I don't know the answer to, I will just simply ask our inspector or send an email off to the Department of Health, and they have been really great with getting back to me very detailed descriptions and letting me know to let the entrepreneur know what kind of route they should go. Okay. Kind of bridging that gap between the two of them.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because navigating that is a little challenging, and I've read up probably on the cottage law more than anything else, and I just, let's be clear out to the listeners, I'm not an expert on any of this, and all legal and or facts and figures mentioned on here are for conversational purposes only. Please check with No More Empty Pots directly and or the local health authority for anything official. So let's get that out of the way. But with the cottage law was kind of interesting for me, is because there are a lot of cottage bakeries that spun up during 2020,
right?
And some didn't have as many brick and mortars open, and people kind of took a look at their careers and went, oh, hey, I'd really rather bake some baked goods instead of doing whatever I was doing. Yeah. So there's that. And from what I understand with the cottage law, like you said, you can bake things, you can sell them out of your home as long as you have met the right criteria, and you can sell things at farmers markets and things like that. But I think you were saying that from a wholesale standpoint, that is then a different thing. So if you're going to have your goods in someone else's storefront, then that is a different set of legalities there.
Correct. Yes. So direct to consumer means you as the business owner are selling directly to somebody. You wouldn't be able to drop off a mass quantity to a space that's offering you availability on their counters or whatever. You would have to actually then make that in a commercial kitchen. If it's going to be wholesaled, it has to come out of a commissary commercial kitchen.
Gotcha. Okay, so does the commissary commercial kitchen covers that scenario we were just talking about, and then it also covers food trucks and things along those lines. I'm assuming then that's the same for catering, would be the same way. You have to have that commissary kitchen.
Right, yep. So, if you were a caterer, you would have to, because most caterers are creating items that are made with meat products, dairy, that kind of thing. So that has to be made out of commercial kitchen. Off the bat, it wouldn't qualify for cottage. And then anytime, caterers are in our kitchen space, it has to, if they're selling to anybody, it has to come out of our commercial kitchen.
Are TCS foods, the time temperature controlled foods, is that sort of one of the main differentiators that says, hey, you better have a commissary or commercial kitchen space?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. And then that's part of that, the serve safe education, things like that as well, because you have different hot and cold hold times and how fast things need to be cooled or heated and to what temperatures, and
exactly
all of those different things, which can get a little complicated too.
And luckily in a commercial kitchen, all of that information is right there in front of you. It's posted on the refrigerators what the temperatures need to be. And we have cutting boards that are separated by color, so there's no cross-contamination, that kind of thing. So we set it up to make it easier for our entrepreneurs to make sure that they're upholding those kinds of permit codes. So
you're helping them navigate the legalities of their, making sure that probably taking a lot of the stress, I would think, out of an entrepreneur's mind of oh geez, I don't know what to do, and then also, helping the consumer be safe with the food that is coming to them, because of course you want a repeat customer, so they need to be healthy. So that's also important.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So for something like a pop-up, for example, and this is a greedy question for me here. So if you're going to do a pop-up, that's a little different, because you're not at a farmer's market. You're at a bar that serves drinks, and you're going to be providing the food. So how does one go about getting a a pop-up permit. What are the pop-up type things in Omaha? How does that work?
So pop-up for us would mean that they would pop up at our location and perform any kind of services or business inside of No More Empty Pots. So if somebody wanted to throw a pop-up event at the Cups Cafe and then cook the food downstairs in our commercial kitchens and then just bring that upstairs, totally legit. We do pop-up events with the community. I know, like, I personally have taught a couple of courses in our kids' kitchen for the Omaha Black Doula Collective and IB Black Girls Doula Passage programs.
Nice.
Those kind of pop-up things you can do and host. As far as if you wanted to pop up as a chef and then take that off-site, that's not something that we currently have because you have to be ServSafe certified. We have to have your business insurance as well on file, and we have to be listed on your insurance as like your commissary kitchen. So that process is a little bit different.
Gotcha. So is that more similar to, with the exception of, say, having a food truck, is the permitting and licensing and things along those lines very similar to just having a food truck, except that you're somewhere else? Or how does that work?
Well, food truck's a little bit different because they cook their food on their truck, and their truck is also inspected by the health department, so they can take anything. We're just there for food trucks mainly for convenience purposes. We are still listed as their commissary kitchen for their storage needs, for their dishwashing needs, that kind of thing. But they are able to just chop their onions at our kitchen and then take it and cook it on their flat top in their truck anywhere in their whatever location they take their truck to. So it's a little bit different for food trucks.
Gotcha. And then for an off-site pop-up event, is there a special permit from the county or anything that you would have that's specific to pop-up, or is it just a business license and something else? What are all the paperwork?
There is a separate one. So there's
okay.
commissary forms, and they differentiate. So if you were just doing a pop-up, you would have a vendor commissary event.
Okay.
And that usually is just for a very short time frame and it's specific to that event. So we've had several events. I know we've partnered with Afrofest. And again,
Oh, yeah. It's down there with Chef Jamil
exactly.
this summer. Yeah.
Yeah, House of Bots.
Yeah.
He's in our commercial kitchens. So, yeah, it just depends on what kind of event you're hosting. And if you are already in the space, it's a lot easier process. But if you are just popping up, there is a specific commissary form for that.
That's then specific to each individual event. You have to file something along those
Yes.
lines. So you're doing repeat paperwork on that as well.
Correct.
Aha. Okay. Then from a farmer's market perspective, if somebody is preparing a TCS food, I'm doing egg rolls with meat in them or protein of some type that needs to be controlled. So then that does require a commissary kitchen. And then how does that differ a little bit then from that pop-up from the food truck, whatever? What happens if somebody wants to get into the farmer's market business?
So if they are already having us as their commissary kitchen, they would just make that food in our commissary kitchen, load it up in chafing pans or package it up, and then just hold it at that temp. So like with a hot box, and then take it and reheat it at the event. Again, if there's somebody who's just doing a one-time pop-up and they're like, hey, I'm a chef and I want to just make this one specific thing out of your commissary kitchen, that's not something that we currently have.
Gotcha.
Because we have everybody that we have in our kitchens is a repeat renter. It's like geared towards entrepreneurs that are building their business and giving them that space to conduct their business on a regular basis out of. Our caterers, though, we don't like set a guideline for them. I have some that, only pop in once every few months. I have some that book time every 2 weeks. I have some that come in a couple of times a week. So it really just depends on the nature of their business and where they're at scaling wise, and we try to accommodate that. So that's kind of why we keep it the way it is and not just so many one-time businesses popping in and out, because I want to have that space for those entrepreneurs that are actually doing this and conducting that business either full-time or as a part-time thing.
That makes sense. So you're really helping the long-term entrepreneurship in the community
Correct.
raise up there a little bit.
Right, because the goal of the kitchen is for it to be like a revolving door, right? Like I love when I see my entrepreneurs leave, because that usually means they've gotten that brick and mortar or they've gotten that food truck and they no longer need us as their commissary space because they're now, on their own. And then that frees up a spot for another up-and-coming entrepreneur that isn't quite ready for that brick and mortar, or still kind of figuring out their timing of things and if they want to do this full time and leave their full time gig behind. So, it's a good thing when people are leaving, because that usually means that they've elevated now, and now that creates more space for our new and up and coming food entrepreneurs.
So how long do the little cooking birds stay in the nest typically before you let them free? Is there, or it just varies?
It does. It just really varies. It depends on where people are at in their lives and where they're at with their business. I mean, we have people that have been in our space for a really long time because that's what fits their business needs, and we have people that have been in only 6 months, and now they're already getting ready to get their brick and mortar, and we're happy to see them go, and we can celebrate them and help network and promote their events and what they have going on. So yeah, it's always a good thing to have them kind of come and go. The quicker the better for them.
How many entrepreneurs are you helping, like, at any given time, give or take a little bit?
So active entrepreneurs, I technically have 33. I would say the ones that are actively like really going full time, full steam ahead with their businesses, I have about 7. Okay. And I'm available for them to help with, anything that they really needed that I have the capability of, whether it's helping you make labels, whether it's finding packaging, whether it's putting your name out in communities and in events and networking with, my network of people, those kinds of things. Yeah, it really kind of varies.
You hit on something that I didn't even think about right away, because especially with packaged goods, you have to have labeling on there and you have to declare the ingredients that are on there and those things. What are some of those things that food entrepreneur that rings that doorbell that's just literally walking off the street and they're like, I want to cook some stuff for people? What are some of those other little things like labeling like that maybe are gotchas that they just typically aren't aware of, and you're like, hey, you need to do these things?
Yeah, there's a lot, actually. Permitting is the biggest one, just because it is such a complicated, not a process is complicated, but finding out exactly what it is that your business specifically needs for permitting can be complicated. Once you know exactly what it is, it's kind of a quick and easy process, actually. But yeah, packaging, your cost of goods, in the food industry, one day the carton of eggs can be 89 cents, and then a couple of days later it's $4. It's kind of hit or miss. So being able to know when to shop, where to shop, that kind of thing is something that most people don't even think of, because the price of things change so quickly.
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, we have like a restaurant depot here.
Right. You
might be able to order things from U.S. Food Services or whatever. Is that something that you provide as well? Not only just saying, hey, you can shop here, but sounds like you have a good network of contacts if somebody needs to source, I don't know, phyllo dough, and somebody else needs to source good quality lamb. Like, are you able to help link them up with producers that can do those things?
Absolutely. That's where we partner with the greenhouse. So we strongly encourage our entrepreneurs to use local procurement for any of their ingredients. So we actually have an ingredient procurement form that's plastered right between our kitchens, and it's a barcode they just scan, pulls up a form. They kind of tell us exactly what their kind of needs are, what ingredients they're kind of looking to source, and then we plug them in with Taylor, who does our distribution at the greenhouse, and she looks it through her contacts and partners them together. So it's a beautiful partnership too, because their ingredients can literally get dropped off at the greenhouse location, or even sometimes to our food hub location from the supplier themselves.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and especially if somebody's looking for ingredients that, may be challenging to find, or specific spices. Absolutely. Or, somebody wants something highly specific. That's great to have those resources there.
And it's not, it's a great thing to be able to say, I support local that supports local. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It doesn't get more local than a local entrepreneur gaining their ingredients from another local entrepreneur or a local farmer.
Absolutely. Ryan Berry, who owns Willie Dogs here locally, MCC graduate, et cetera, he was on a show one time and used this phrase, hyper local, that local supporting local. I love that mentality, and especially just, it's nice to have somebody that you can, walk up to, physically talk to, see a smile, and is there to help you, achieve that dream, because, right. That's really what a lot of these folks are like really working towards. That's awesome. That's really cool. What I guess with the I think you said you had kind of 7 folks that are really consistently there, and then up to 30 plus that you're kind of helping out. I guess any past folks that you have helped launch out into the world that just really make you smile? I'm sure they all make you smile when they're out there successful, but any like really cool success stories that come to mind?
Yeah. Like you said, all of them have their own individual successes that we celebrate. Just being able to get permitted and insured is a great thing for me to see, for some people, coming from somebody who used to cook out of their kitchen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also seeing some of the great things that some of the entrepreneurs that have from our kitchens have come from. Idle Vital just opened their second brick and mortar, who initially started in the kitchen. I didn't have the pleasure of being in the kitchen when they were, but they were at our greenhouse doing storage for a while, and she just opened her second brick and mortar. We have Best Burger, who is switching locations and getting a new brick and mortar and still operating with their food truck, and I see them at all kind of community events. We have House of Ba.
Yes.
We have Chicken Bucket, who started in our kitchen only 6-7 months ago now, and they are already scaling to get that brick and mortar and working towards that right now. So that was our most recent exit that we're really excited to see them go.
Wow. Well, we were talking a little bit off mic, and Universal from Best Burger has been on the show several times, and I was telling you, it's one of the first interviews that we ever had. Such a great guy, and his location at the Highlander, he had closed that kind of recently, as far as this recording goes. So excited to hear that he's cooking in your kitchen. He's looking at opening up another spot, which is super cool. It's so good to hear that he's coming back.
Yeah, and we just had his lunch today, catered for our all-staff meeting. So, yeah, they're still in the kitchens. They're still cooking, and there's going to be more things to come from them for sure.
Get my cheddar under Swiss with some sweet potato fries. Again,
sweet potato fries. Where is that?
It's that grilled cheese, man.
Well, I told Universal, I was like, he's the one that got me to like sweet potato fries. Whatever seasoning he puts on those big sweet potatoes, just so good. I love that. So that's so good that here's come back. And I haven't heard about Chicken Bucket. So breaking news for me anyway. I love some chicken. So what's Chicken Bucket?
So Chicken Bucket is an entrepreneur. His name is Jeremy Wentland, and he started in our kitchens. I want to say it was May, before I started as the kitchen coordinator there. Yeah. And he's been in this space. I mean, he was in there every week, 30, 40 hours a week.
Wow.
So that was like his full-time thing. And I know he does a lot of great things with the community as well. He's partnered with OPS to get after-school program meals and meals into OPS. He's done things for our own personal events. He did our open house. He's done things at Boys and Girls Club. So he offers meal planning and catering through chicken, but now he's looking at getting that brick and mortar set up. He's in the works of that. And I think the location's still kind of being kept on the hush at the moment, okay. But it's definitely something that's coming soon.
That is so cool. All right. Well, make sure they reach out, because I love new restaurants. So that's fantastic. And I can't wait to see where Universal is going to open. Although rumor has it, I know you can't give away the official location, but he's still sticking in the North Omaha area, so we can get some good burgers up there.
Absolutely. I think that's something that's very important to them with Best Burgers, to keep it kind of North Omaha located for us.
Well, and I know he's a big fan of Cajun Kitchen up there too. So, he's got
shout out to Gary. Yeah, Cajun Kitchen.
So, he's got to be in proximity there. So. It's so neat that local investing and that hyper local ability that No More Empty Pots has. And I think we had talked about Carter and Rye. I think Kate was cooking out of the kitchens there for quite a long time, and she has her own brick and mortar space now, and also now I think her own commercial kitchen space that she has too. So it's like
awesome.
So kind of No More Empty Pots is kind of like exponentially influenced various things in the community, which is fantastic. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. So I think you had mentioned, Alisha, that you were at one point cooking out of your house. So what's your food journey? How did you get here?
It's a long story. I went to culinary school and graduated at Metro in 2009. After that, I kind of put my culinary business on hold and just kind of worked, jobs that paid the bills and had good insurance and that kind of thing, because being a food entrepreneur is a super huge risk. And at the time I was, being a new mom and navigating that life and that role. So I had to put the dreams of being a food entrepreneur on hold just for stability and, safeguarding purposes. But when COVID happened, I kind of saw the need and saw the flexibility to be able to do things from my home at that time, with everything being kind of shut down. And it really just started something small with me just providing family-sized meals to my friends and to my family members that did still have to go because they are essential workers and they didn't have the time, and then they couldn't just stop and grab something super quick like they used to back when the world was fully open. So I started making meals, and I have 5 kids. So I already make large-sized meals, and it was just already knew how to double it, So if I needed to make something for my family, I would quadruple that and provide those meals to family and friends. And then, once the world started opening back up and I wanted to be legit, that's when you had learned about the permitting and the commissary kitchens and No More Empty Pots and partnering with them. And it's kind of just been that ever since. But again, it's so much, and I admire entrepreneurs for doing this as their full-time job, and I saw the need at No More Empty Pots for somebody who needed a kitchen coordinator, and I realized like that would have just been a perfect fit for me. It allows me to merge my love for food, but also my dedication to social impact. So I don't have to necessarily be the one in the kitchen anymore. I can fulfill that kind of desire within me, seeing my entrepreneurs be successful and giving them those knowledge and tools that I gained throughout my 15 years of starting since going to culinary school.
Talia, when you and I and Rain were talking on our prior episode, I think I had mentioned that just seeing the look in your eyes and the energy that you bring, there's such a passion behind here. And Alisha, I totally have that for you too. Like you can just tell like you're just 120 billion% like all in to help. And that's so neat that your passion for food kind of linked up with the ability to provide that social impact and like, exponentially doing so for multiple people is so cool.
Yeah, it's been very rewarding. It's been a very fulfilling job. I haven't been here long, but I tell people all the time how much I admire this place, and what they do as a whole, as an organization, is amazing. I'm a firm believer in the transformative power of food. Not only does it nourish our bodies, but it can bring communities together and strengthen our bonds. I mean, if you look at any kind of culture, one thing that we are all kind of centrally navigated towards that brings us together is food. So it's really cool to be able to do that, just locally and with entrepreneurs as a whole. So I don't get just one small community of things. I get multiple communities. We have different kind of ethnicity foods being made. We have different kind of events that bring everybody together. So I'm really excited to see how much we can grow and how much more of an impact we can make with the commercial kitchens.
I love it. Well, you had mentioned Afrofest. We had talked about Chef Jamil Batraore. One of the things for his culinary capstone program that he has, I was very, very blessed and fortunate to go to one of those dinners. And the different chefs that he had there were all from different areas, different countries, different walks of life. And you had mentioned food kind of being that, connection point and, learning that, oh, hey, I make this cuisine, but here's the spices I use. Oh, use the same stuff? Maybe we don't use the exact same ratios or amounts or whatever. Or you find out, similarities, say, between like some Indian cooking and Mexican cooking. It's like, oh, hey, we're using a lot of the same like spice types here and things along those lines. So you're mentioning the different, cultures and ethnicities and cuisines and things that are in the kitchen. Are there any, like, I'll use a corporate-y word, I guess. Do you ever experience any culinary synergies, if you will, between folks that maybe are in the kitchen space at the same time? Does that ever happen?
No, they book time and that kitchen space would be theirs during that time. We do have two separate kitchens, so they could be close by and neighbors. And that does happen from time to time, but we usually keep it because we want to make sure all the equipment and tools for that entrepreneur are available. If they are like items that they're making, to maybe have them come in at separate times or separate kitchen spaces. But if they're in there, I mean, I've had experiences with them being in there and, hey, I need some salt, or hey, do you have some ginger?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, sometimes they have some very obscure requests or spices that they don't want to run to the store or they ran out of that somebody else can supply that's in the kitchen too.
Do you find that your culinary background from Metro and your ability to cook and things, you're focusing on the social aspects as well, but like that education, has that helped you kind of educate others? Are you spreading the education out?
100%. I'm all for knowledge sharing. I think one thing that my background really benefited the kitchen was just coming and seeing things from a chef's eye. Previously, it was ran by amazing people, but maybe not people who were in the kitchens as often as I was. So maybe the layout of things didn't make quite as much sense, or the organization of things didn't quite make as much sense as somebody who is constantly in the kitchen 24/7. So going in there with the chef's eye, I was able to kind of just maneuver and kind of put things in places that made a little bit more sense for people who are operating out of the kitchens. And then knowing how to like break down and clean the kitchen spaces has been really huge and impactful, I feel like, because they have, their own duties and cleanups after their shift, basically after they book, but bringing them all together and doing that big, deep clean, again, it brings that sense of community and support amongst each other, but then it also makes sure our equipment is operating at 100% because it's gotten that good, deep commercial clean that maybe somebody who's only used, their home oven before didn't know how to do.
I'm really glad you brought that up because, especially tear down of that commercial kitchen and making sure that everything is spotless from floor to ceiling, basically, and those kind of things. How does that work? So somebody finishes doing their prep for the day or whatever, kind of what are their responsibilities for their shift? And do they need to come, back at the end of the day or how does a whole cleaning schedule work?
So we have a cleaning checklist designed for each kitchen space that they rent out of, and we just tell them to include that into their time and factor that in. So if you can get it done in 20, 30 minutes and you've hit all the items on the checklist and it's done, up to par, then cool, awesome. But if you, are still learning things, you need a little bit more time, just allow yourself a little bit more time on that schedule so that way somebody else can't book and try to get in there while you're still trying to clean up, because the goal is to have everything up and ready for the next person immediately. You don't have to spend any time looking for equipment or spend any time cleaning up a mess that was left prior.
That makes sense. I heard once that mise en place is a way of life, so that sounds important. So.
Clean as you go.
That's perfect. Well, and you had mentioned your chef skill as well. Do any of the entrepreneurs that are coming through the kitchen ever seek your flavor advice or recipe development advice? Does that happen too?
No, and I feel like that's because all of our entrepreneurs are super skilled and talented in what they do. If anything, they could probably teach me a thing or two on what they're doing. I do think that we all kind of have our own specialty dishes and specialty menus that we have and have made previously in careers. But, actively now, I'm just all for being a taste tester.
I was you read my mind.
I will be happy to give any of them feedback. Exactly. And being in the kitchen, my office is next to the kitchens, so I can smell when somebody's in there. I have my laptop to be able to tell me when somebody's book time, but there's nothing that beats my nose. So I'm like, I smell Amy's kitchen. I smell still popping in there. I smell popcorn. So yeah, I'm always available to give advice or to give any kind of feedback, but I let them do their thing. They are the experts. This is their business. I'm only here as a resource and, kind of somebody to just be added to it.
Do they ever just stop in and be like, hey, you need to try this. You need to try this. Yeah.
That's one of the best perks about my job.
That is fantastic. What is something recently that you tried that you're just like, oh, wow, that was super good?
We have Sweetmeats Dessert Bar, and she does a lot of cakes, pies, cookies. She makes this banana bread that, you can smell it. And as soon as you walk in, it smells like heaven. You can smell it outside of the building. It smells so good. And she just brought it in. She's like, hey, try this because it's going up in our Cups Cafe. Uh-huh. So it's available to everybody now at the Cups Cafe, but I got that first kind of sneak peek and I'm like, dude, this will sell out. It's amazing. And I've bought it every day. That was my one consistent menu thing that I've bought is the banana bread, and I'm just trying out all the different coffees right now.
Okay, so now I need to go see Rain for was it the Lavender Dream?
The Velvet Rain.
Velvet Rain. Jeez, wow.
And Sweetmeats Desserts Bar, banana bread.
Banana bread. Okay, so that's the breakfast power move right there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, so with your either graduates or I shouldn't say graduates, but folks that have, completed their time at No More Empty Pots or existing people, do you guys ever get together and cook? Does that ever happen?
It hasn't, but I think you've just brought an idea. Maybe we should have an active kitchen renter potluck or something, and everybody just bring their best dish.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Maybe that's something we can have at the pub for the public to come to. It's a showcase. See our new up-and-coming entrepreneurs, because this is how we're going to keep our culinary, landscape thriving in Omaha, is by getting these local entrepreneurs out there and their business out there by word of mouth.
Well, just speaking as a very hungry diner that likes to eat local, that would be amazing to try some potential up-and-coming, food entrepreneurs in Omaha all in one place. That'd be amazing. All right, if that happens, sign me up. I'm totally there. I got invited out to the MCC, final, I guess, I don't know, it was a capstone, but for bakery. And the amount of food that was put out there was crazy. It was delicious and good. I'd love to see what the No More Empty Pots folks, especially because so you had just mentioned breads and popcorns and so what other types of cuisines are flowing through the kitchen right now?
Oh man, we have some African cuisine. We have soul food. We have vegan soul food. Oh. We have bakers. We have someone who just specializes in breads and sourdough. We have barbecue. We have chicken.
Chocolate sauce made out of aronia
chocolate
berries.
Sauce. Yeah. It's endless, really.
I love that. So I had asked Talia and Rain when they were here talking to me about kind of, the way back, looking at dishes or things that they felt really made an impact on them, growing up or throughout their career. So what's a dish maybe from your childhood? Maybe it's culinary school. I don't know. What's something that really just speaks to your heart?
100% gumbo.
Nice.
I come from a large family. That was kind of like our large family communal meal. We would always have a giant stock pot of gumbo going at all of our family events. And we come from a big family of gardeners, so we would be able to source and gather a lot of our ingredients from our own garden. So one aunt would bring the okra from her garden, one aunt would bring the tomatoes from her garden, and they all did like a communal cooking style in one kitchen, and they all put their hand in the pot basically. Wow. So that's one meal that always stuck out for me. In a way, with the community and No More Empty Pots and what you're doing, you're kind of bringing all that together in kind of a different aspect, kind of that same thing, people coming together in a spot to produce something wonderful. Right.
And how cool is that? Yeah. You had mentioned too bringing ingredients from garden, and Talia, you had mentioned the garden. You have the greenhouse up there by the Highlander area, and then there's also stuff that you have that is grown at No More Empty Pots on the roof too. You have rooftop garden there as well?
Yep, there's the rooftop garden at the food hub.
Okay, and so can the entrepreneurs source those local greens and things like that from you guys as well, or is it like how does
that's part of the local procurement.
Okay.
That's a little QR code that they scan when it's in season, and they have the ability from the rooftop that if that's something that they request, that is absolutely something we would provide.
Wow.
Maybe even make them do a little maintenance up there too, just so keep it fair.
You read my mind yet again. Who takes care of all these gardens?
All of us.
All of us?
Yeah.
We have a horticulture team that are like subject matter experts on it all, but everybody has kind of this feel-good vibe around the house plants, and so even if it's not like your direct job, everybody has some involvement in the growing, planting, watering, harvesting, tasting anything that grows in any of our spaces.
What is growing in the No More Empty Pots garden as we speak? It is very, very cold right now.
Well, we do have Audrey, which is our hydroponic system inside of the Cups Cafe. So when you do stop in and see that, you can also see what greens are growing out of the hydroponics. Right now, I know she had like some arugula, some mint, basil. I think there might have been some other kind of greens in there too.
I would say the top secret thing that I want everybody to know about that's we're trying to grow in the greenhouse at the Highlander campus are strawberries. Ooh. I was very adamant that we would be the only place growing strawberries in the winter, and we were going to figure out how to perfect that. So right now, we have actual strawberries beginning to grow in the greenhouse. But other than that, leafy greens for sure. The basil, we call it the fluffy Afro basil because it's just bigger than any basil you've ever seen. That's but yeah, awesome. Strawberries. Tell all your friends. That's awesome. and to get a strawberry that tastes like a strawberry instead of like is red on the outside and just doesn't strawberry on the inside, like it'd be so cool to have that there. So berries and different herbs and lettuces and things like that. What else is being grown there? Root vegetables and things like that, or what else do you guys grow
at the rooftop?
Gardens?
There's some more root vegetables. So yeah, they'll do carrots, onions. Tomato plants are up there. I think there are some herbs up there in that garden too. Yeah, once it's gardening season, then we kind of go full steam and have a lot more available. And I would say in the greenhouse, we're looking at getting cages for our current hydroponic towers so that we can grow some weight-bearing things. But we didn't R&D that for the first year, but we have the capability to do that in 2025.
With sourcing ingredients and helping the food entrepreneurs do so, is there any ingredient or item that comes to mind that was like particularly hard to source, or you have the connections all figured out and like, not too difficult? Yeah, no, nothing's been hard to source. I would think that a lot of entrepreneurs have said that they didn't know that they could source these ingredients locally. Yeah. Like they're so used to getting their meat from Sam's Club or Costco, when we have local farmers that will supply that to our micro market that you can go in and just buy at the micro market personally, but also would supply that in quantities that would suffice for their businesses. That's awesome. And so with those connections, then are you able to help those food entrepreneurs get those things at like a wholesale type price then, so you can get those local products at a price that will help you then allow to resell your own ingredients? Exactly, like creating that local ecosystem. And speaking of reselling and things like that, so you have to think about things, as far as reporting income, and there's tax aspects and things like that. Does No More Empty Pots help with the establishment of, say, an LLC or I guess an S corp or whatever, like do you help with advice on how to structure that business, or is that a different aspect somewhere?
I would say that's a resource that we supply in like a workshop.
Okay.
We want the experts to speak on that.
Sure.
I can give my own personal experience in what I decided to do with my business, but I'm not an expert on the matter. So what we would do is have a drop-in workshop that would have a lawyer or an insurance agent come in and give their professional advice on that.
As far as renting the space out, what does it cost? I mean, does it vary by the type of food or quantities, or what's
for our costs at No More Empty Pots? It's based on how often. So the more time you spend in the kitchen, the bigger your discount is. I will say we are extremely affordable, but we do have the flexibility to only rent per hour. Like I said, some entrepreneurs are just getting their feet wet in this business, so they don't want to lock into some place where you're only getting a discount if you're in the kitchen 100 plus hours a month. But we also want to have that flexibility to offer that discount to those entrepreneurs who are at 100 plus a month. So we have, space rentals from as low as $15 an hour up to $50 an hour. It really just depends on what plan you need that fits your needs, how many hours you'll be in the kitchen. We try to make sure that everyone is aware when trying to get into the kitchen space that they are aware of the fees associated with the Department of Health and getting permitted. So we have our own deposit cost of $200, but then the Department of Health has their own separate cost that you would have to pay them before they issue your permit, so that way you can operate out of the kitchens.
Give or take a little bit with the permitting and things like that. How much does it cost to get a permit?
Depends on the type of business again.
Sure.
But I would say most people are going in as a caterer or caterer-like business. And that cost, I would say, between deposit, Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, it could be up to $700.
Gotcha. So a decent chunk of change, but also probably manageable in the long term.
Exactly. That's that buy-in, though, for your business. You have to kind of invest in yourself at some point. That gives you the availability to just make sure you're selling food to the community that's been, permitted and is safe.
That's an aspect that I'm glad you touched on there as well, because it's one of the things that's always curious to me is somebody that does decide to quit their 9 to 5 or whatever and go out on their own. I think there's, for me anyway, I think there's a big mental hurdle that you have to overcome, because you're going in on yourself and taking a little bit of risk in those things, and that I think that's got to be hard for some folks.
Absolutely. That's why I say I get inspired every day by my entrepreneurs. It's really encouraging and reassuring seeing the visionaries of our community put in all this effort and energy and time and money into being successful in their business, and that in turn is just giving us a service in the community. I'm a foodie, so the more local food places I see open, I'm pumped for. And I just want to be able to support them however I can.
Well, Alisha and Talia, thank you so much for coming and visiting with me. I continually learn more about No More Empty Pots and all the wonderful things that you do. All I've encountered so far is wonderful local support, beautiful, wonderful smiles, just energy and happiness, and really just helping each other through food, which is just wonderful. On the show, sometimes we say connect with food, and you're totally doing that in I don't know how many different ways. I don't even know if I can draw a picture of
all the ways. It's a web of ways.
That is fantastic. Okay, so I think we touched on a little bit at the very beginning of the show, but if somebody wants to come and see you and start traveling that path of being a food entrepreneur, what's the best way to find you, Alisha Waugh?
Sure. So you can find the information available on our website, nomoreemptypotsomaha.org. You can also always just stop in. The Cups Cafe is open Tuesday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 2. And then you can just always say, hey, is anybody available for a tour? And I'm just downstairs working, and I'm sure I'll be able to stop up and give you guys a quick tour of this space.
Well, Talia, thank you for coming and visiting with me again. And Alisha, thank you so much for our first introduction here. Is a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
I learned a lot, and I think probably only just scratched the surface of all of these things. So we'll sign it off here. Thank you both so much. This is Dave with Faturday. And as we say, until we eat again, stay hungry. Bye. Our show is recorded and produced by Faturday Omaha. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as email FaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay hungry.
Faturday Omaha.
Eat this.